The first day of your cruise can be daunting. Sure, you're excited, but there's a lot going on and it can get chaotic. And if you forget to do a few simple things, you could end up wasting a lot of time and money and even ruin your cruise. But I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm going to give you the 9 steps I always follow on embarkation day to avoid any problems and ensure the best possible cruise. I'm Gary with Optimal Cruising, bringing you fresh cruise advice, money-saving hacks, and secret strategies the cruise lines don't advertise. Let's get started. Last year, a good friend of mine took an entire cruise without his clothes because his suitcase didn't make it on the ship. Just last month, I heard another case of a passenger showing up to check in without their documents in hand. Arriving prepared, while it sounds so basic, there's still people who aren't doing it. So I'm going to cover the 3 main things you need to do very quickly. 1, you always have to have your documents in hand, your passport, your birth certificate and ID if you're traveling that way. If you're going to another country like Europe, you have to check for visas. Whatever you need, make sure you've got that on hand. Number 2, and this one got a friend of mine last year, when you're attaching those luggage tags to your luggage that you're going to give to the porter and have them put on the ship for you, make sure you're stapling that thing a bunch of times. And I always put 2 on my bags. Each bag has 2 handles, one at the top usually and one at the side. I will print out 2 of those tags and I'll staple them on both handles. I'm not taking any chances of missing my luggage. My friend used a piece of tape, and I guess it didn't adhere that well because his bag ended up in the lost and found at the terminal waiting for him when his cruise was all finished. And then, for some reason, people still miss the timing window. When you're given a time to board, don't be late. Be early, that's okay. You might be waiting around. Sometimes they'll just let you get on board early. But if you arrive late, assuming that the ship doesn't leave till 5 o'clock because that's the departure time, they're going to close boarding 1.5 to 2 hours before that time. And if you arrive after that boarding is closed, you won't get on that ship. Now, this next step ensures that you can start your cruise vacation right away. The first time I went on a cruise, I didn't want to carry anything on board. I wanted to let them handle everything. I just wanted to go like a rock star. But that can be a problem when you find out that you don't actually get your luggage until the evening of the first day of the cruise. So you always should be packing a carry-on bag, and you have to be smart about it. The things you want to put on there are anything that you're going to need that first day of the cruise. Don't rely on your luggage getting there at a certain time, and don't be worried about when it's getting there. Just have everything for that first day, which would include a change of clothes if you want to use the pool, if you want to go and put a swimsuit on and go on the sun deck, sunscreen for that purpose. If you're going to need any medications during that first day, don't put them in your checked bags. There's no guarantee what time that's going to get there. And in some cases, bags do even get lost. So if you always have something with you that you're carrying on, you'll be good and you can start your vacation off right away and not have to wait for your bags to come to start having fun. Now, these next 3 steps are crucial and they're missed by 90% of all cruisers. When I go on a cruise, I don't like to leave things to chance. Well, maybe if I'm going to play a little in the casino. But when it comes to my room cabin, I want to make sure everything is working right. I want to make sure I have a good cabin. So I do a function check on everything in the room. I'm always checking that AC first because I've been on a cruise cabin before where it wasn't really working properly and it was just miserable sleeping in a warm cabin at night. And it took them a couple days to fix it because that first 24 hours, I didn't even check it. And then I realized in the morning that something wasn't quite right, but I kind of let it go another day. And by the time I reported it, I'd already been living in that cabin for 2 days without proper air conditioning. The other things you want to check right away are the lights. Make sure they're all functioning and coming on. If you have a flickering light or a light that is dim in one part of the room, that can be quite annoying, especially if you're trying to read or do something like that in your room. And then check your TV, just turn it on, make sure it's working. And then you want to check the refrigerator, make sure it's cold in there because for me, I like to put some drinks in there. I like to get drinks or bottles of water and put them in there. And I want to make sure it's keeping them cold. And then you always want to check the safe in your cabin because that's where you want to store your valuables and your important documents while you're going about the ship. And a lot of times the person before you might have locked it after taking their stuff out and you don't know their code, so you can't get it open. You need to call somebody who can override that, open it for you, and then you can put your stuff in there. Have you ever had a problem with the AC in your cabin on a cruise? Let me know in the comments and let me know how long it took to be resolved. Fortunately, I've never experienced this on a cruise, but because I continue to hear reports of passengers dealing with this issue, I will always immediately check for bed bugs the minute I'm allowed into my cabin. And this is fairly easy to do if you bring a little portable flashlight with you on board, or if you don't have one, you can use that flashlight from your camera. And what you want to do is just get that flashlight ready and take one hand and kind of stick it under the mattress and lift it up quickly and shine that light under there. That should disturb anything that's going on. If you see any black dots or any movement at all, you probably have an issue. And you can also check on the top of the mattress simply by pulling back the mattress pad. You pull that back quickly, shine the light in there. If you see any black dots or stains or any movement, you probably have an issue. And you want to report that right away before your luggage even gets into the room, because these things travel like crazy. And if they get into your clothes and into your luggage, that's a whole other nightmare to deal with. You want to avoid that. And this next step will help protect you from an annoyance you really don't want to be dealing with. There's nothing worse than being on a cruise and having something malfunctioning in your bathroom. So you definitely need to do a bathroom check. In such small spaces like these cruise ship cabins are, if something's going wrong in that bathroom, it can cause odors and smells that just permeate through the entire cabin. So get in there and flush the toilet, make sure it flushes properly. Turn on the water, both in the shower and in the sink, and make sure that it drains properly. Specifically pay attention to the sink. I've had this happen many times where it just doesn't drain properly. It just kind of fills up fast. And if I'm shaving or doing something in there, I don't like that. So I call and have that fixed right away. And then my wife will always test the hairdryer, make sure it's working. There'll usually be a hairdryer in the bathroom, or if it's not in there, it could be in a closet right outside the bathroom. But find it, plug it in, make sure it works, because if it's not, you can ask for another one. And they have limited supplies, so you want to be one of the first one to ask if you're having a problem. You don't want to find this out on the morning of day 2 when your hair is all wet and now the hairdryer is not working. Now, if you've been cruising before and there's something else that you always check in your cabin on that first day, put it in the comments below. Let me know. I went on a cruise with an older couple a while back, and they were just determined they weren't going to buy the Wi-Fi. They were just going to go on this cruise and totally disconnect. So they showed up to the cruise and the ship was getting ready to leave, and I asked them, hey, did they set up the app so that I can text them on the ship? And they're like, what? I'm not buying Wi-Fi. I don't need the app. But there are many free features on all of these major cruise line apps that you can use even if you don't buy the Wi-Fi. So you want to make sure you download that app ahead of time, preferably at home before you get on the ship, but if not, while you're on the ship and still connected to your cell network. Because once you leave, you're going to have difficulty downloading that app unless you paid for Wi-Fi. Now, if you paid for Wi-Fi, you also want to set that up and make sure it's working properly before the ship leaves, because you'll have a better chance of fixing that early on. The cruise ship apps will give you all the schedules, allow you to make reservations and do other things on board for free without purchasing Wi-Fi. They'll even let you text other passengers. So like in my case, when I was traveling with these other people, I was able to communicate with them even though we were in different areas of the ship and figure out where to meet up or what they're going to do or talk about plans, and they didn't have the Wi-Fi at all. That type of communication is offered completely free by the cruise lines. And then probably the most important thing to do is to turn off your cell service or put your phone in airplane mode before the ship leaves. And this is because whether or not you're purchasing Wi-Fi, if you have a cell plan back home, like with a Verizon, an AT&T, or a T-Mobile, you could be automatically connecting to roaming networks while you're at sea or close to other countries or in other countries, and you could end up unknowingly paying for roaming charges for data and other things that you won't find out till you get back home and are hit with a big bill. Unfortunately, there are a number of passengers continuing to face this problem because they didn't take that precaution. And this next step will certainly get you better service on your cruise. But first, if you're interested in booking a cruise, we maintain an updated list of the best cruise deals you can book right now. If you'd like a copy of that, just comment deals or click the deals link in our description and we'll email it to you. After I've checked out my room, whether or not I have any issues, I always go and track down my cabin steward. You can usually find them in the hallway in the area where your cabin is because they're usually working on things on embarkation day. And you want to introduce yourself and find out his name because he's the go-to guy for most things you're going to need involving your cabin during your entire cruise. And that's actually kind of nice because once they start to know you, they know your preferences. For example, I like to have a bucket of ice kept in my room, and so I ask for that. And I also hand him a tip up front. I usually give a $20 tip on that first day and ask for any of those things that I want, and they're more than happy to accommodate you, and it kind of helps the service level a little bit. You can also ask him or her what their cleaning schedule is, because they might have different options. If they're only cleaning once a day, they might have an option to do it in the morning or in the afternoon. And if you have a preference, you want to get that worked out, because if you're the first one to talk to him, you're most likely going to have your preference met. And if you know your cabin steward's name and you set up that report on day one, any issues that come up during your cruise will likely be resolved more quickly. You won't have to call guest services or go wait in line somewhere to resolve a problem. You just find your guy or girl in the hall, let them know what's going wrong, and they'll usually be able to fix it or get it fixed on their own. Now, these last two steps are crucial for setting up your cruise the way you want it. But first, I would ask that you take a minute and subscribe to our channel. Hit that like button. It does help us grow and will continue to bring you cruising updates. I found out the hard way that all the good shows and restaurants book up early, and if you don't get ahead of the game, you could be left out. Day one of your cruise lines will open up all kinds of reservations that you can make. If there are certain shows being held on your ship that you can't miss, make sure you book those right away or as soon as you can. Some lines will only open up reservations for these things day by day. Others will let you book the whole cruise on that first day. You just have to figure out what it is for your cruise line and book it as early as possible so that you don't miss out on the things you really want. If you're going to be doing specialty dining, the hot spots and the prime times do book up early, so you want to make sure you book those in advance to get the restaurants you want and get a good time for you. And then if you've been assigned a main dining room time that you don't like, day one is the time to try to get that fixed. You want to go to the restaurant and talk to the maitre d' there. They'll likely be able to adjust it for you. It might take a day. It might not be adjusted right on that first day. But if you're one of the first people to talk to him or her, you'll be one of the first people considered for a change depending on availability. And this last step, you couldn't keep me from doing. I don't know about you, but even though I've been on a lot of cruise ships, when I get on a new one for the first time, I'm excited. I want to take a look around. And the best thing that you can do for a better cruising experience is to do a strategic tour of the ship when everybody's busy. And that's when they're all at the buffet eating lunch. I say this because you can take a complete strategic tour of the ship without the crowds, without bumping into people. Figure out where everything is. Take a look at all the nooks and crannies. A lot of these ships are made quite differently. So just because you've been on one class of a ship, you go on a different ship of the same class, it's not going to be the same. And you're going to want to know where the venues are that you want to attend, where the activities are that you want to participate in. And you'll also have your eyes open because you'll find something that you probably didn't even know was on that ship. One time I was on a ship and I was doing this tour and I didn't even realize they had a bowling alley on that ship. And that's something that I might want to do. So I'm glad that I saw that on day 1 and didn't find out about it on day 5 because it was in an obscure part of the ship and I might not have walked through there generally. And this also helps with planning your time and finding your go-to spots. What area are you going to be comfortable relaxing in? Some people like the solarium. Some people like the main Lido deck pool. Some people like area where their kids can play. So you can figure out where these are and it'll make your cruise easier because you're not wandering about the ship when it's crowded trying to figure out where everything is. Map out where you're going to eat, where the buffet is, where the dining room is. Just a quick walk around while everybody else is busy eating will save you a lot of time and make your entire cruise a much better experience. Plus, it's a whole lot of fun. So now that you'll have a much better cruise because you know the 9 crucial steps that you have to take on embarkation day, there are several scams out there that are taking advantage of cruisers during their cruise. I'll tell you how to avoid those right here.